We're also live streaming on YouTube. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Live streaming on YouTube. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, guys.
How's everyone doing? Fuad is here. Perfect. And Stephanie's here.
I've had a crazy night already.
Yeah, it's okay. So the run-up show is in the chat. So you can click on it, so you can have it open, so you can see the order that we're going. We're going a little bit out of order. We're gonna have Dorian go first after we do our openings, okay?
I don't see it.
Yeah, can you put it in the chat?
Sure. Hello, delegate. Thank you for joining us. We're so happy to see you.
No problem. Happy to do this.
Thanks for making the time. We truly appreciate it.
No problem. Just FYI, the document says requesting access for the
Okay, I'm gonna let everybody in very soon. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. We are very excited tonight. We have some great speakers who are going to provide us with not just motivation to get the thing done, but they're also going to provide us with needed information on how we can get more engaged and involved, and how we can ensure that our VP becomes our president and Governor Walz becomes our VP. So it's going to be a wonderful night, and I hope everybody who has joined us enjoys it. And don't forget, we like to be interactive, so please do ask questions. It's critical. If you don't ask questions, you may not get the answers that you want. My name is Fatma Taberi, one of the co-leads for this Africans in the Diaspora for Harris-Walz. This started back in July when she announced that she was going to run for the seat after President Biden stepped down and he endorsed her. And our first meeting was on July 31st. We registered for the meeting over 3,000 people. We got attendance of about 1,300 to 1,500 people attended that first meeting. Africans in Diaspora started simply because after When We're Black Women were such a success in bringing Black women together, I decided to start something to motivate and have our community also mobilized. And I put it in a WhatsApp chat, and the woman who runs it then sent me a message and said she's working with Dr. Fuad Sharif, who wants to raise money for the campaign. I wanted to mobilize. He wanted to raise money. She said, why don't you check with him? Reached out to him. And today we have this, and we collaborated. I like to tell this thing at the beginning of every meeting to sort of dispel some of the thing that Africans don't work together. We have work to do, but we're doing very well. We're working together and having different, even having different groups right now. We speak to different communities, right? We're not a monolith. So I think to a certain degree, we are also reaching other people. So those other affinity groups who are Africans doing the same thing are reaching people that we may not reach, and we're reaching people they may not reach. So I think having these different affinity groups is not necessarily a bad thing. Even though sometimes we think it is, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I wanted to just say that for everyone who's listening and watching. Dr. Sharif, do you have a few words before we send it to Dr. Bull to give us our motivational speech?
Thank you, Clemente. I really appreciate your time, obviously. And obviously, thank you to all the panelists and our guests who have been joining us for the last, 6 weeks now? It's feeling like a long time ago when we first had our first call. And obviously, collectively, collective responsibility makes us all here this evening because we know what's at stake. And we all, like you said, individually, Africans in the diaspora have done things individually, but we've decided to get together. There's over 40 members in our panel. And obviously, thanks to them and thanks to all of us for taking time out for our busy schedules to be here because we all know what's at stake and we all want to work hard to make sure Kamala Harris becomes the next president of the US. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we'd like to transfer it to our own Dr. Bull. If some of you haven't been here, hold on to your chairs. You're about to get some motivation, uplift this evening. Dr. Bull, take it away.
Thank you very much, and welcome to everybody tonight. 40 days or less to go. 40 days or less to go to redefine not only the United States, not only Africa, but globally. This is a moment. It's going to be very consequential, and it is the most consequential election in our lives. I mean, in a traditional election, by this time, we would have defined the leader or who is going to win this election based on the character of the folks who are running for office. In North Carolina, we have a governor who is a Black Nazi, who was endorsed by the President Trump as Dr. Martin Luther King on steroids. Folks, something is happening on the ground that we need to be aware of. Eating cats and dogs, it's something is happening to Black people and they're sending the message. As Africans, we need to be very, very strong. Like I always say, who is more likely to stand up for Africa, for TPS, for something? We just experienced what happened to the Liberians, our brothers, who under Donald Trump were under forced deportation. We know about Project 2025 and what it means for us who are naturalized citizens of this country, how that would be, that they set up an office to deconstruct naturalized citizens in this country. Folks, the past is dark. It's really, really dark, and they want to take us back to the past. But we have to go forward. And we have to go forward for the next 40 days. There should be no sleep. And as Tim Walz said, you will have plenty of time to sleep when you die. We have to give it our all. We have to shake the bushes. We have to go out. We have to be present, because we are not fighting only for ourselves, but we're fighting for the youths of Africa that we've left behind. Africa is 75% youths. We got that opportunity to be here. And these youths are looking. They are in a time bomb, trying to seek democracy. Trump will not give it to them. They're trying to seek human rights. Trump will not give it to them. They're trying to seek opportunities for education, to build and to grow. Donald Trump will not do it for them. But let us look at the opportunity economy that VP Harris is talking about. The numbers alone, very important for us. 60, 25,000, 6,000, 25,000, and 50,000. You know, who is more likely to benefit from that 6,000? Think about the many people who come here on DVs, who come here as family members, who come here on marriage visas and all of those things and have babies in the United States. Who is more likely to benefit from it? It is the people who come in and those who are marginalized in this country. Think about our kids. We come into this country as a deficit. However successful we are, we would never be equal to those we met because their grandfathers left them bonds and stocks and they developed and they have the resources. Our kids are finishing college. To buy a house is a struggle. Who is more likely to help them? It's Kamala Harris and Harris-Walz. A lot of Africans have businesses in the Washington, DMVA, and all across. Who is more likely to get them that $50,000 to start the business? Folks, we see it is glaring, and I still don't understand why the margins are so close. I just don't want to say it, but it is all about eating cats and dogs. That's why the margins are so close. That those who've seen the conviction, the felon, and everything, let us flip the table around and say, half of what happened or Trump done, Kamala Harris or Harris-Walz did, the election will be over by now. So that means we have to fight double because that's what we are used to doing to succeed. So I call to you to say, I always say this, if you're not at the table, you are the menu. As Africa, we've been on the menu for so long. We've been barbecued, we've been dissected, we've been deported, we've been harassed, we've been called all kinds of names. But now is our opportunity to be at the table. And we need to be at the table at the White House with Kamala Harris and Harris-Walz. And we are going to do it. In North Carolina, we are going to do it. So I say to you, RSVP your place at the table. And the RSVP is an acronym for you to be at the table. Let us start with the R. Make sure you register and you check your registration. And all those who are affiliated with you, right now is the time when you talk to people to vote. Tell them to check their registration. Tell them to know when early voting starts and tell them to check their precinct. Okay, it's very important. Register to vote and get everybody to register to vote. 2, sponsor. As I always say, put your money where your mouth is, where your mind is, where your hope is, where your opportunities, where all the possibilities are. And for us, it is with the Harris-Walz ticket. We have to put everything we have in there because it's going to benefit the world globally. 3, you have to vote on the RSVP. You have to vote as if your life depends on it. Make sure you vote early so you could take other people to vote. I am going to vote on October 17th, North Carolina, and be done with it. After that, I'm going to be calling my friends, dragging them to vote early because on the day of voting, a lot of things could happen. So vote. And last but not least, promote this ticket. Talk to people. And that is where we are right now, to beat the bushes, to get on the ground, to make telephone calls, to do everything we can to promote it. So I say to you, if you need a place at the table and you don't want to be the menu anymore, please RSVP. And we're going to put the link for you to start your contribution tonight, even if you've made a contribution. It's time that tonight you say, I'll give $5. Our goal is to have 1,000 small donors because that's 1,000 votes we guarantee would happen. So please call upon your friends, share it, because if they give $5, I know they're going to vote. So please, tonight, if you give your $5, you're saying you're reserving a place at the table. And we will all be at that table to make a difference, not only for Africa, not only for these United States, but will make a difference for the world, because the world is looking to America. Ukraine is looking to America. Arab world is looking to America. And if we don't fight, we will not win. Because when we fight, we win. Thank you all. God bless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bull. And before I go further, just very quickly, since Dr. Bull, especially I talked about donations, know that only permanent residents and US citizens can donate to any political campaign. No one else can, but anyone can volunteer to knock on doors, make phone calls, tell your family, tell your friends who can donate, who are permanent residents or US citizens to donate. And only US citizens can vote in the presidential election. Now, I'm not talking about local, some jurisdictions are allowing other people to vote on the local. So if you see, like now, I think Frederick County just in Maryland just decided, or the state of Frederick just decided non-citizens can vote in their local municipal elections. Does not mean that because you can vote in that means you can vote in the presidential. Like you can vote for the president, you can't. You cannot vote for the president, you cannot vote for the congressional seats, you cannot vote for any of those seats. Only US citizens can vote for those seats, and only permanent residents and US citizens can donate. Okay, so on that note, next, we will have Darian to speak to us. Darian Palmer is Director of Coalitions and Community Engagement for the North Carolina Democratic Party. He's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing over there. As you all know, North Carolina is the place. It's highly important. So we are lucky enough that the North Carolina Democratic Party is making time to join us tonight to tell us a little bit about what's happening there. And take it away, Dorian.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation and warm welcome. My name is Dorian Palmer. I have the privilege to serve as the Director of Coalitions and Community Engagement for the North Carolina Democrats. I want to start by saying my job is not a cycle-based job. This job is a permanent fixture in this party because we know that as we invest and engage in people, people will turn out. In states like North Carolina, where we're a state that wins on the margins, we know North Carolina is a 48 state, and we got to find that last 4% to win. That's what we know here. We know that here in North Carolina, we've got to fight for every single vote. We've got to engage folks intentionally and authentically and in a way that makes folks feel comfortable and excited about our ticket. And boy, am I excited about the ticket we have in North Carolina this cycle. I want to start, though, by addressing the elephant in the room, and that elephant is Mark Robinson. Mark Robinson is a disgusting man with unbelievable morals and horrible values, and someone I don't want to be the first Black governor of a state that I love so much. I can't have that. So I want to get that conversation out of the way. But the candidate slate we have running statewide in North Carolina is amazing. So, but first I want to take a second and say, I talked about why we have to engage folks. I want to talk about what we're doing. Here in North Carolina, we have coalition and affinity groups that we have historically had. One of those affinity groups we've not historically had, though, is the African Diaspora. And so this year, for the first time in the history of the party that I've been able to see, on October 2nd, we're going to be doing a roundtable here at our state Democratic Party headquarters space. Really welcoming folks to a space we've not historically opened, to have intentional and authentic and real conversations. Because we know, again, when folks are engaged, conversations are had, fences are mended, we will win. So that Mobilize link will be coming out throughout the evening. Please sign up. Please send it to your friends. Please tell everybody you know in this state to come. Because I and this party want to engage in a way we haven't. Because we know in 2020, we lost a Supreme Court justice seat by 401 votes. When I talk about the margins of North Carolina, we lost our Chief Justice Supreme Court seat by 401 votes. Delegate, you understand the critical mass of that number. So that is the first thing this party is doing, being authentic and hoping folks come into the fold of the party. The second thing is what's going on across our state. Well, I will tell you the Harris-Walz team is showing up in communities that we, as far as coordinated campaigns, haven't historically. I live in rural western North Carolina, a small town called Morganton. And I can tell you that the Harris team opened an office in my town of 20,000 people, and I actually live in a smaller town of about 1,200 people. But the Harris team opened an office in the parts of the state here in North Carolina that have been historically disengaged. Similarly, we have two offices in Guilford County where we have a high population of members of the diaspora. We have a large population there in Mecklenburg County down at Charlotte. And same here in Raleigh, we have about two offices as well. We're knocking doors every single weekend. We are doing events. I did 13 events this last weekend alone. And so we're showing up in places and ways we historically haven't. So we're anywhere, everywhere, nowhere, like I said, the first. And then we're knocking doors and talking to people in a way that we know we relate better to our folks. As a general rule of thumb. And so I want to talk about our statewide slate, kind of who they are, kind of what they're doing, and kind of why they're better than the Republican slate. I don't have to explain that to y'all, but man, nothing makes me happier than talking about our amazing candidates in North Carolina. So to lead our charge, we have our current Attorney General, Josh Stein, a man who's a principled leader. He's an effective communicator. He's one hell of a prosecutor, I must say, similar to our next president. And he is someone who I believe to lead effectively this state. We have Natasha Marcus running for Commissioner of Insurance. We've had 16 rate hikes to our insurance across North Carolina, all of them behind closed doors. Not one of them has happened at a public hearing that our Commissioner of Insurance is empowered to have in our state law and administrative codes. We have current Congressman Jeff Jackson running to be our next Attorney General. Jeff Jackson is a prosecutor. He worked in Mecklenburg adjacent, if you're familiar with North Carolina, just west of Charlotte, in a county called Gaston. He is a prosecutor. More than that, he's a congressman. He is a soldier. He's a captain in the Army National Guard, and he's someone who loves this state and has spent his entire adult life fighting for it. We have Mo Green running to be our Superintendent of Public Instruction here in North Carolina. Our candidate on the Republican side has called for the public execution of Presidents Obama and Biden and of our Governor Roy Cooper. Mo Green led the third largest school district in the state of North Carolina. He can and will effectively lead our school system statewide, and he'll look out for, as what I like to call, what the Bible says is the least of these. And that's what I want in someone to lead my kids as they mature and matriculate in this world. We have Jessica Holmes, running for state auditor here in North Carolina, someone to be our government watchdog, someone to make sure our books are straight across our state and make sure our public funds are well taken care of. We have Elaine Marshall, our Secretary of State. She's been the Secretary of State for literally as long as I can remember. And she's doing a good job. You don't break something. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is what I'm trying to say. We have Sarah Tabor running to be our Commissioner of Agriculture, someone who worked in farms for the last 20 years across North Carolina. So she knows a thing or two. She also has a PhD in agri-sciences. We have Wesley Harris, who's a current state representative, who's the only PhD economist in the state General Assembly right now. And because that's true, he's going to be the most effective treasurer we've had because he knows a thing or two about the economy. And that's something I think is important. We have Braxton Winston running for our Commissioner of Labor. He's a day laborer in his real job. That's what he does. He works in the film industry in Charlotte, and his job is to set up stages. And we want someone who's punched a clock in the last 10 years to tell us about labor in North Carolina. We have Rachel Hunt running to be our Lieutenant Governor. I jotted these names down in no particular order just as they came to my mind. We have Rachel Hunt running for Lieutenant Governor, and her goal is to bring Hunt leadership back to North Carolina. If you've been in North Carolina or heard about it, you may have heard when we were the beacon of the South. up until the year, 1996 when Jim Hunt was our governor. So she's running in her dad's shadow and his footsteps, and we couldn't be more excited. Similarly, we have 4 more candidates, all running to save our courts here in North Carolina. We have Justice Allison Riggs running to retain her seat on the Supreme Court. We know right now we have a 5-2 Republican Supreme Court. We want to hold the seat we have in 2026, save another seat, and in 2028, take back our courts. And we have 3 folks running for Court of Appeals right now. We have a 4-11 split on our Court of Appeals Republican. We have 11 Republicans, 4 Democrats. This year, we're going to do everything in our power to take it to 6 Democrats on our ballot. We have Carolyn Thompson running to keep her seat. We have Ed Eldred, and we have Martin Moore all running. So the next question I was told to ask is how can you help? You can help by showing up at our canvases. At the second link I dropped in the chat, it's our most broad NC Dems Mobilize. Join a phone bank, join a canvas, come hang out with us. And then tell your friends to come do it. And then I really liked Dr. Bull's statement about RSVP. We got to register, we got to sponsor, we got to vote, and then we got to promote this ticket because this is an effective ticket for our people. This is an effective ticket for my community, for our community, for my children, for your children. We can't leave North Carolina in the hands of someone like Mark Robbins. So friends, I'm really grateful. Thank you, and grateful for the opportunity to come hang out. I'm happy to answer questions if that's allowed. If that's not allowed, I'll drop my email and phone number in the chat. I'd love to be in communication and conversation more. I truly do hope every one of you in North Carolina are able to come on October 2nd. We're going to have a really good time. And I really can't wait. And I'm so grateful. Thank y'all so much. If y'all have any questions, let me know.
Does anyone have any questions? Anyone on the committee? Kobe, I know your hand's been up. I don't know if that's by accident, but anyone has a question for Dorian?
Yeah, but I have a question. This is Kobe, but my question is related to the DMV. Pretty much in Maryland, in my states, but I'm not sure if it's time for that.
Let's wait for that.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone has any questions for Dorian? Anyone in the audience?
Yes, I do.
Oh, Fuad.
So I know Dr. Bull is in North Carolina and Duran is in North Carolina. I was wondering, how can you guys collaborate? I know we are setting up a team in North Carolina to get out the vote. Dr. Bull, is there any way you could talk to Duran to see how you guys could collaborate?
I'm going to say it's really funny before he responds. I wrote down that I need to give him a call tomorrow.
Okay. Yes, and we could share numbers and give me a call and we could go with that. I see your 919 number.
So that's my NCDP cell phone number.
Okay, all right then. I'll write it down. So I will give you a call.
I mean, North Carolina is a very important state for this election. We want to keep all stones unturned. So if you guys could collaborate and especially get some of our Africans in the diaspora there to come out and vote and support and bring some of these guys who are on the fences about voting. Let's get them out.
Mahani?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much, Dorian. That was great. I wanted to find out if people are interested in some of the election and campaign activities that are going on in North Carolina. Is there a website that we can find out, when things are happening, the dates, the times, and things of that nature?
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat. It's just mobilize.us/NCDems.
Okay, so that's where we go.
And that's where, and there are plenty of events there.
Okay.
And then similarly, I will send an email tomorrow with what the Harris team specifically in North Carolina is doing. I do want to be clear, I don't work for the Harris campaign in North Carolina. I work for the party. And they are separate entities working in coordination. But I will get the link for their overall tomorrow, and I'll send it out, hoping it can be shared after that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else has any questions? Any of the audience members? If you have any question, you can put it in the Q&A. Anyone? Okay, well, Dorian, we appreciate you making the time to come and speak to us and let us know. And you will connect with Dr. Bo. He's amazing. So all that will be set up. Thank you so much for joining us, Dorian, and have a good rest.
Thank y'all so much. Be well.
All right, you too. Okay. So next we have our own Maryland delegate. He is one of the African folks in Prince George's County that we had this numbers of African elected officials in Prince George's County go to the state delegation. And, you know, some of us are so proud of what is happening, what has happened over there, and hope it could trickle out everywhere. Delegate Adrian Boafo, thank you for coming. We would love for you to give us just a little bit of information on your background, and then we'll go from there. And before you go, I just want to recognize, I'm so happy she's here, Representative Naquita Ricks, another beautiful person who is also another African elected official in the US of A. So it can happen, people. Go ahead. It's you have the floor.
Well, thank you for having me. I know it took some time on our scheduling end to get this set up, but it's so important to be here with my brothers and sisters from the diaspora. As was just mentioned, I'm Adrian Boafo. I'm a state representative here in the great state of Maryland. I represent Prince George's County, specifically Upper Marlboro, South Laurel, and the city of Bowie as well. And before that, I served as the vice mayor for 3 years of the city of Bowie, which is the 5th largest city in the state of Maryland. And so really happy to be with some folks. I have to say though, at the top, to Dorian and to other folks from North Carolina, I'll be spending a lot of time in North Carolina this cycle, because I think last week we all realized, to quote Tim Walz, how just plain out weird their gubernatorial nominee is for governor. And we have Anderson Clayton, who's the youngest state party chair in the country. And I think come November, going to remind folks that young people have the power to do a lot of great things in this political space. Let me just start by telling a quick story about how I got here. My parents are from Ghana, West Africa, and they came to this country like a lot of Ghanaians in the early 80s, late 70s, when democracy no longer existed in their country. And they came here for an education, but they could never return back, especially in the Rawlings years, just because of how disastrous Ghana really was. And thank God the country is a thriving democracy now. But think about that. That's a generation ago that democracy didn't exist for my parents. And here we are in 2024 facing the same scenario that happens too often across the country. And so I grew up my entire life in Bowie. I went to school in Maryland, went to school in Prince George's County, went to college here in Maryland, and decided to work for members of Congress. I worked for many members of Congress, including my hometown member, Congressman Steny Hoyer. And I had this wacky idea one day. I said, look, I want to run for office. And everyone said, a kid with a weird name, who at the time is 25, with it's an African name, I don't know if it's going to actually work out, right? And so we said, look, I'm going to run for this office. I'm probably going to lose, but at least I want my ideas to be out there, because I care about the city that I came from, and I care about my community that much. And so I ran. And I'll tell you, it's about 7:50, right before polls are going to close. The polling station, one of our polling stations, gets really filled up. And a volunteer over there called me and said, hey, you've got to come see this. There's a lot of people who just got in line, maybe about 80 people who just came out of nowhere 10 minutes before the polls closed, live in Bowie, live in the district, and decided to show up and vote. And this was in 2019, right before the pandemic. And so I drove up the street Again, thinking I'm going to lose this election, so no point in going home now. They're probably going to announce it before I get there. And quite literally, I saw all my aunties and uncles, all these folks that I had never met, but understood the last name and understood the moment that we were having in Prince George's County, and decided to go back home. I won that election by 76 votes. And last minute in line, there were about 80 people. And so it's a reminder that the diaspora does show up, especially when we have people like ourselves on the ballot, but more importantly, when there's something for us to fight for. And so I want to turn to this election for a second. I spent a lot of time traveling the country for trying to help other legislators get elected, trying to help members on city councils get elected, and really just trying to help a lot of young folks get into politics. And what we have here is a situation in the Democratic Party where President Joe Biden selflessly passed the torch to probably the best person he could have, Kamala Harris. And think about what that means for the rest of the country and the moment that we're in right now. And then on the other side, you have this guy who quite literally is the most unserious man to ever run for the highest office in the United States. And I mean that seriously. I was just on the Hill earlier today, and I wish I could take credit for this, but a member of Congress said, which other members of the community can this guy hate? He hates women. He doesn't want to restore abortion rights. He clearly hates immigrants. We saw what he said about Haitians, and he just said something about Venezuela folks earlier today. He doesn't really like people of color, and we've seen how he's treated Black folks in New York, not just as a real estate developer, but also how he's talked about us and demeaned us as the president of the United States. Who else can he alienate? But the reality is that the polls are still close. I want to talk about Maryland for a second, because while we're going to vote for Kamala Harris in a big way, we have an important race. The battle of the United States Senate is in Maryland this cycle. We have an amazing person, my county executive, Angela Also Brooks, running for the United States Senate against Larry Hogan, a guy who, frankly, I will say is a nice guy, but I know a lot of nice people who should not be United States senators. Larry Hogan has continued to turn his back on the people of Maryland. And just because it's been a couple of years, a lot of folks, frankly, have forgotten. He turned his back when it came to funding education. He turned his back on us when it came to making sure that especially Black and Brown communities were protected from COVID. And he turned his back on us when it came to reproductive rights. He vetoed 2 bills in the state legislature when that happened and omitted funding. And thank God we have Governor Wes Moore, who was able to get us that money back and reestablish the protective rights for women here in the state of Maryland. But this is an election about choices. And when you look on the one side, you see a choice of a truly unserious man, and you see somebody who's been fighting for American people every single step of the way. You may not agree with the vice president on everything. And frankly, I don't think you want a politician that you agree with on everything, right? You want somebody who can critically think through the issues and figure out what the best way and path forward is for the American people. Now, let me turn to the diaspora for a second. We are in a moment in time where the diaspora, someone said this earlier, the fastest growing population of young people in the world. Now, I was just in Ghana last year, hanging out with my family. I hadn't been in 6 years because I've been running for office for a couple of years and trying to get my feet wet in these new offices and building a staff and working for the people of Maryland. But I decided to go last year during December, which if anyone knows anything about Ghana in December, you know how tired I still am from that trip. But one of the things I saw as I'm driving through Ghana is these new infrastructure projects that are being built. And those projects are being built and funded by the Chinese government. And I asked one of my cousins who lives out there, I said, hey, what's going on? He's like, this is great. We have Chinese investment in Africa. I don't think you understand what that means in the long haul. And the vice president has been clear, not just as a United States senator, but as a candidate for president, and even as vice president, as she's visited so many nations in Africa, that what we have to do is ensure that the United States actually has investment in the folks in Africa. Not from a beneficial standpoint from the United States, but to also ensure that the national security of folks and democracy doesn't fall, which is what the Chinese government wants to happen in certain areas throughout this world. When we talk about immigration rights, when we talk about immigration generally, a lot of folks usually defer to our Hispanic brothers and sisters. But when you think about the DACA program and what that means, when you think about the president's plan to uplift small business owners who are immigrants, he's talking about folks like my parents. I'm the son of a small business owner. And programs to help folks understand how business works in this country, but more importantly, to fund them and make sure that they're equitable is critically important. I don't think the choices in this election could be clearer. No matter if you're a woman, no matter if you're from the diaspora, no matter who you are, if you want an America that's of promise, if you want an America that lives up to the ideals that we promised that we would, then the vice president is the person for us. I'll end by saying this. We also have an opportunity to give the vice president the trifecta here in Washington. In Ohio, which is the second highest amount of Ghanaian immigrants in the country, in North Carolina, in Maryland, in Nevada, we have some very critical United States Senate races. And while we got folks focusing on getting the vice president elected, which I think will happen, we have to make sure that the Senate doesn't flip in Republican hands. Just today, a congressman from Louisiana said, if you're Haitian, by January 20th, you must leave this country. I'm going to repeat that for folks. A sitting member of the most deliberative body in the world, a Republican from Louisiana, said, quote, if you are Haitian, by January 20th, you must leave this country. Donald Trump isn't just a poison at the top of the ticket. He's a poison in the House of Representatives and a poison in the United States Senate. And we have an opportunity to make sure that we keep the Senate and expand seats for Democrats, including here in Maryland. And we have an opportunity to do the same thing in New York, in Alabama, in California, in Nevada, in Ohio, in places where African immigrants and folks from the diaspora, both young and old, live, to make sure that we expand the United States House of Representatives in Democratic hands. Because the reality is that although I think the president will lose in November, we got to make sure that we're actually legislating. And to quote Nancy Pelosi, for our children, so that folks can have the economic value that we know that they deserve, so that folks can have the housing that we know that they need, so that folks actually feel the dignity and respect in America that we know is so needed at this time. So I'm grateful to you guys for coming together in typical African fashion. I saw that they did a Taylor Swift for Harris one week. They did another group another week, and then that was it. The Africans for the vice president has continued to go week and week and week and week over. Because once we're committed to something as a people, we don't back down until the very end. And that's the type of energy that we need come November. So no, I'm here to be not just one of the only Africans in the state legislature, but hopefully we're going to get more elected in Maryland as time goes on. But no, I'm going to continue to be a resource for our community because we need people to turn around and lift ourselves up as well. But we also need people to remind them of the message of what the vice president is saying, which is we're not going back anymore. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. That was amazing. Not surprising to me, but still, it was amazing. I really, really appreciate. Does anyone have any questions for the delegate?
Yes, 5 minutes I can.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Delegate Biafro. We really appreciate it. I want to know from Africans in the diaspora, what can we do to continue to support you over at PG County, as well as whatever things that you guys are doing there? Because, you know, it's Africans, we've been here for quite a while now, and we have never collectively coordinated in some of these, what we're doing now. So whatever we could do as Africans in the diaspora to support you, please share that, and we'll be able to do our best to support you.
Yeah, I'll say this in the immediate. What is needed is everyone doing everything they can, especially if you're in Maryland, for Angela also Brooks. Prince George's County has the highest amount of African immigrants than anywhere else in Maryland, and one of the top places in the country as well. And she needs to make sure that she wins her home county, not just by a normal amount, but we need to over deliver for our county executive who has done so much for us, right? The first county executive to start an Africans council that focuses on the issues that are happening here in Prince George's County. She's been somebody who's been on our side this entire time. And this November, we have to have her back. So everyone who is going to go say, you know, Maryland's going to be blue anyway, I don't need to go out and vote. What we need to do is mobilize in Prince George's County to make sure we deliver for the county executive. That's the first thing. The long-term thing is you're right, and it's been an extraordinarily frustrating thing for me in this role, is that we're not new to politics, but we're new to organizing as a people in this space. And I have to give ourselves, all of us, grace in that. But what we have to do is that make sure that this group and groups like this, not just this cycle, but next cycle, starting early, making sure that we're helping folks across the country, like Representative Ricks, win election. We're all going to be up soon again, right? in a couple of years here. And so it's making sure that we're starting early so that folks can actually win those elections, that we're recruiting good candidates who aren't just of African descent like myself, but also actually believe in investment in Africa in a real way. And so I'll make sure I drop my email in the chat and my website, and I'm happy to coordinate with folks, especially those in Prince George's County, on all the stuff we're doing for Angela.
I have a question.
Okay, Kobe has had his hand up for a while. Go ahead, Kobe.
Yes, Delegate, I'm glad that's actually, I'm from Ghana as well, and I'm happy, and I'm super excited that we have one of our own representing Africa with PG County, and I'm actually lives in Laurel, PG County, South Laurel as well. So I think you are my rep. So I definitely want to, know more and what we can do to help you. I'm a musician and also in the movie industry. So I deal with a lot of people from the diaspora, from all the communities, from Ghana to Nigeria to Liberia and all of that. And I knows that a lot of diasporans, African citizens here, but of course, nobody reach out to the community like that. So when Ms. Fatima reached out to me, I was very excited and happy. And I'm a very political junkie, so I wanted to be involved, but I don't have any links to what I can lead. And what I want to say is, I'm with a group of people. These are doctors, lawyers, that from Ghana, Nigeria, that we meet every Sunday, have conversation about politics back home here. We eat, we drink, we talk about Bible, Quran, and everything. And these are a group of intellectual people that all have known people, work with a lot of people. So my question is, whenever we talked about politics, they believe that, oh, Maryland is a blue state. Definitely is going to go for the Democrat president. But I'm always the one challenging them that you still have to vote, because the down ballot is very important. The Congress, the state house and all of that, even though, I don't know much, but I always feel that it's right. So I always kind of talk to them about that. So I would love that we may, especially the place I meet on Sundays, maybe we'll have you, rep, to maybe visit, to educate these people, because I know that all of them has people. They know people, have a lot of people behind them. And I think if they get to be educated from somebody like you, they can able to understand than me trying to convincing them that they should vote and vote all the down ballot. So that would be something that I would be happy and interested if you could be, it could be possible for you to maybe visit us on one of those Sundays before election time, maybe 30 minutes or less than that, to speak to these people in Bowie as well. So thank you. That's my that's my question or my maybe comments. Thank you very much, Ms. Fatima.
Yeah, well, you had a lot of questions, but I'll try to get through a few of them there. Let me just say I'll make sure I reach out to you in the chat before I hop off here and give you my contact information, so we can get that set up. And obviously, an honor to represent you in South Laurel, one of my favorite communities in the district. Let me also brag. You say you were from Ghana, so I'm going to brag for a second, and forgive me to everyone else. But I am the second state legislator of direct African descent, in terms of first generation, to serve in the Maryland legislature in Annapolis. The first was Nigerian. We'll put that to the side. But the second was myself. And not too far after that, we got a third in Bernice Merker North, who represents Montgomery County. And so we have two folks in the legislature right now who are of Ghanaian descent. And you can't imagine how much it means on Independence Day, where we are actually in session in Annapolis, all 141 members of the House sitting on the House floor. And we get to stand up and say that our parents came here for a reason, and a generation later, their children are members of the General Assembly. It only happens here in America. And you said something else I want to highlight that is important. The down ballot races are significant. Just because you live in a blue state doesn't mean that everyone shares your blue values. And I mean that in the sense of, you have folks, our party is a big tent party. And so folks really have to pay attention when those elections come up in 2026. But folks have to remember, in Congress, Maryland has a lot of competitive seats for the United States Congress. And this cycle, in Maryland's 3rd Congressional District, which has like Frederick County, Garrett County, a bit of Montgomery County, our nominee, April Delaney, a good friend, is down by a couple points to a MAGA extremist Republican. And we've got to do everything we can to make phone calls, even if you can't drive all the way out to the western part of our state. Make sure that we're doing everything we can to get her elected. So, Kobe, you were right in saying that it's not just about the presidential election. It's not just about this cycle. We also have to make sure do everything out that works out. And last thing I'll remind folks of is, because we experienced this in my last election, when you go out and vote, just don't go out and vote for the top of the ticket. Some folks will say, "Oh, I went and voted for Kamala Harris and I'm done." No, in Maryland, we also have question 1 on the ballot to enshrine abortion rights into the Constitution. Make sure you go vote yes on that. There are so many things that are happening that require voters' attention. And so just know I'm a resource to continue to tell people about what's happening in Maryland. But Kobe, I'll be sure to message you on the side here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Ike, I see your hand up. I think you are next. I hope I'm not mixing up.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Berry. Delegate, thank you so much for this great evening and actually sharing your story. I think your story is very powerful. Question, I'm not going to manage your time well. So the question is, the race for Osbrook and Hogan is a very tight one. And when you look at the demographics of what seems to be the struggle somewhere in the line, I don't know why I feel deep down inside of me the block that hasn't shifted yet completely towards Osbrook is, if I'm not mistaken, those in the African diaspora. I think a lot of them, when you speak to them, seem to be leaning towards Hogan, who was, in their mind, pretty much a good governor. The question, the danger of that is he's not running as a governor. He's now running as a senator. And if he gets that seat, we're in trouble, because it's just not about him anymore. It's about everyone else. What is the party doing to address this issue directly? I had an opportunity on Monday to speak to the governor about this in a very small setting. I don't know why, for some reason, I missed that opportunity. So I'm asking you now, what is the strategy to actually ensure that we, as the Africans in the diaspora that live in the DMV or the PG County area or Maryland period, can really begin to see the importance of why we can't afford to play this game this last minute?
Yeah, well, let me just give a shout out to Jovi Lopez, who I think is speaking next. He's going to talk a little bit more about what the Maryland Coordinated Campaign is doing, and
Okay.
frankly, doing extraordinarily great work on the ground, making sure coordinating. Well, actually, probably not coordinating because I don't know how that works, Jovi. But we've got the DS in town, the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee doing what they have to do, the Alsobrooks campaign doing what they have to do, and the Maryland Coordinated Campaign doing what they have to do. Let me tell you why I think this is we're in this situation here in Maryland. I want to be clear. My prediction is that Angela Alsobrooks wins by 20 points. That is my prediction.
I'm backing
That
you
is
on that
a
one, sir.
relatively close race in Maryland, in blue Maryland, by 20, right? I think she won the primary by 20, and that was kind of, a tough situation. In a general election, yes, I think she wins this race by 20, and still for Maryland, that will be close. You got to think in mind that most of our people win by 40, 30, 35, 40 plus points. So it will be close from that standpoint, but my prediction is she wins. And here's why. We spent a lot of time in the primary making sure that people knew Angela in the key parts of the state that she needed to be known in. But the reality is that the general election electorate, in my opinion, still hasn't tuned into this race. And that's because of what we've been talking about. A lot of folks saying, well, Maryland's blue. So people have been tuning out a lot of the news that's been going on. And what I'm realizing that the Alsobrooks campaign is doing a really good job of is that they're introducing her to folks. Just because people voted in the primary doesn't mean an independent voter in Garrett County or a Republican voter in Hagerstown knows who you are. And what we have to do is introduce Angela Alsobrooks, talk about her accomplishments as the state's attorney, talk about her accomplishments dealing and leading Prince George's County, which for the record was one of the highest places, if not at one point, the highest place of death for folks of color in the entire country, and how strategically she curbed that and turned a health crisis into a success story and a model for how to deal with a pandemic throughout the country. So I think that, we're in this situation just because people are still tuning in to Angela Alsobrooks. And the good news is that when people know who she is and they meet her or they hear her story, they get excited. And you're right, Larry Hogan was, in some people's mind, a decent governor. Yeah, I'll use the air quotes, a decent governor.
Yeah.
But the reality is that he's turned his back on Marylanders more than once. And why anyone thinks that the Mitch McConnell recruited, President Trump endorsed, former governor is going to not turn his back on us again, I don't know. But the simple answer is that we have to do everything we can to get our message out, especially in that Baltimore region. The poll you were referencing actually talks about Black folks in general not knowing who Angela Alsobrooks is. And when I think about our Black population in Maryland, it's not just in Prince George's County and Charles County. That's the media market that she's in. Those are the people who know her. But you've got to think about the Baltimore region, Baltimore City, and making sure that people actually know her message, know what she's going to do, know what she'll do for the red line, right? Larry Hogan just came out today and said that he would do no federal funding to the red line if elected to the United States Senate. And so we have to just remind people that that's what they're doing. And I started a PAC just a couple of months ago, partially because of this. I wanted to make sure I could raise a lot of money to ensure that while Angela was doing everything she could to turn out people to the polls, I was just doing the simple thing of telling people her message. And I'll tell you, we've contacted about 70,000 Marylanders over the last 2 months, folks who typically wouldn't be the folks that we would talk to. And every time we tell her message, people decide to go vote for her. So I think she's going to win this thing by a landslide. I think it'll be close for Maryland, but I do think there's still work to do to make sure that Larry Hogan doesn't win. And I'll also end by saying this: Larry Hogan they just announced that there's an investment from, I think it's an IE, right, Jovi, of $18 million into this race. So they think they can win this thing. But frankly, $18 million isn't going to outman the people power here in Maryland.
Thanks a lot, Delegate.
Thank you. Anybody else has their hand up? No? Nobody
I
else?
see Abdul. This should be the last question. I see Abdul.
And
Okay.
Jemo.
Jamal. Okay.
So we have two. Okay, so we see Abdul and Jermo. So Abdul, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Abdul. I'm from Mauritania. We have some issue here. African community not really very involved in American politics. Most of them, the majority. Since I come to this country, I try to be involved in my way, and I try to mobilize to allow people. Sorry for my my broken English, but maybe you can. Now we have some issue here. I am in Ohio, or in Cincinnati. Even today, I was taking some yard sign to some place to Trump people area. Only his sign I saw over there. We have some place. We have some Democratic Party. We have I have the address. I go to take some place over there. But the problem for me is to have Democratic people come to African community. No one wanna show up. I invite them. Even last Sunday we have a Mauritanian picnic. We have a lot of people come in. I invite the candidate, I invite the Democratic headquarters, but everyone have an excuse to don't show up. And that does help. If you can do something to maybe, I don't know, to talk to anyone or from the top, people have to understand they have to go after the voter. Not the voter to come up to them, but they have to go mobilize everyone. If they don't do that, people they are here to work. They don't even on October, November 5th, you will see some guy going to work. They don't care about going to work. That is a problem, but they have to get someone who talk to them. Abdul can talk to them, but they don't listen to him. But if someone coming from the party or from a candidate come talk to them, that changes the dynamic. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I think you're 1,000% right. You'll see on the Harris campaign, on the Biden campaign, on the Obama campaign, pick a presidential nominee and insert the name, a Hispanic liaison, right? And then that person usually rolls into the White House and becomes the official White House initiative on Hispanic outreach, the liaison to that community, right? We don't have that. And frankly, what it's going to take is folks like myself and Rep. Hicks being in our roles and making sure that when Kamala Harris is president-elect of the United States, doing everything we can as a community to unify and enforce and tell the president-elect, look, we delivered a victory for you as Americans and as a community, but the diaspora needs you, not just from a national security standpoint, not just from an economic standpoint, because that's where all the growth will happen, but we need to make sure that we have investments in the community. We were able to do that in Prince George's County simply by telling the principal. And frankly, if you don't come from this background, if you don't have that advocacy, that doesn't happen. And so know that there's a lot of folks who are from the diaspora, whether directly or first generation like myself, who want to ensure that we're doing everything to force the vice president, when president-elect, to create an office that is focused on African immigrants and focused on making sure that we're doing all the outreach possible to our communities back home.
Okay, Jermo?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kamala, and I'm just excited to be here and to be listening to all the things I'm listening to. I'm from the Worcester, Massachusetts area, second largest city, as I wrote in the chat room there. I also ran for and won public office here in our city. And then I am really interested and have been moving our African community here locally. I'm also the founding member and president of our a big African coalition, which is called the Massachusetts Organization of African Descendants. And I really hear what the prior gentleman was talking about in terms of even mobilizing, right? And I think Adrian, you mentioned that it's because we've known about politics in the African community, but it's really difficult. And it takes many years to kind of organize, and that's a big thing. Organize and have this kind of like yearly organizing in ways that would bring people together. And part of that too is also the struggle. I see a lot of folks on here, they're from different places, but then the main topic is in the Maryland area. But Massachusetts is also a Democratic state. And I want to say it is not a state for Black and Brown people and African people, but with grassroots organizations like my organization and others in the community, like we're really trying to mobilize to have more BIPOC people. BIPOC, I really care about African people and Latin American people running up and actually winning offices. And I understand we're here for candidate President Harris, but I also want to add this in there because any kind of support that can be given to our community here in Massachusetts, I really appreciate that. Part of the work that I've been doing even now up until going towards like next year, mobilizing our African community at the grassroots level, door knocking, heavy door knocking, investments, and building relationships with churches. We have a large Ghanaian population here in Worcester. And I think the Kenya community in Liberia and others, they all follow here in the city of Worcester. But even having data is a hard thing in Massachusetts, in Worcester. And I want to say also nationally, it's really hard to find really essential data to tell stories and to mobilize, communities. So oftentimes the folks have to find their own data and then find funding resources to do that. So I would love to, and I wrote and I have the email. So thank you for sharing that, because I would love to continue to engage with everyone here to really mobilize Massachusetts, because like when I see your story, age, you're 30 years old, like you're born 94, I'm like, wow, like it's really hard to find that age group here in Massachusetts, even though we are a Democratic state, and it has to change. And so that's kind of one of the things I'm engaged with. And I know we're rooting for Harris, and I want to also support that initiative here too in Massachusetts. But then also, as we all vote for her, like you said, is really holding that office accountable to what can be done for the African diaspora. And one thing I would mention before I close out is the fact that African immigrants, those that are younger population, or those that have been here for so many years, when it comes to immigration issues for the African diaspora, even students who come here from other African countries for education, it is very difficult to obtain education while here. Some people obtain loans and to help them to be able to complete their education here, and then they have to pay for it, and it's really difficult. So one of the things that we are, my organization, because we're an advocacy-based organization and a coalition also, we have like over 200 members, and we're growing in the African communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and locally in Worcester and New England. We're doing a lot of kind of movement here. But one of the things that we want to really push is like more support for immigrants, the statuses, especially, and those things can be at the federal level, because I've talked to our Congressman Jim McGovern, about some of these issues, and some of our elected officials here, like how can we support African students in the diaspora that come here for education. We see a lot of these immigration bills and stuff for Venezuelans, for this and that. And then the last one, I think, was 2012 for the TPS that did a lot of good work, but there's still a lot of immigrants here. But again, in closing, I'm really passionate about advocacy, and especially for the African community, because when you go at the state level, at the federal level, you see all of these like caucuses, like Black and Brown caucuses, but you barely find so many, like 5 or 10 African people from the real African diaspora are part of them. And I think that's an issue. So I think we need to work to fix that, because that also helps us leverage power at state level wide and federal wide for the African diaspora to continue to hold power and offices in different parts of Democratic state in the state of the U.S. So I just want to say thank you, and hi to everybody.
Thanks, Jerma. Okay, so due to time, we can't probably get to everyone, but I wanted to give our council member Pius Ali a minute. Pius.
Thank you very much. I wasn't going to speak, but when I hear Jama spoke, I have to. Jama, I live here in Portland, Maine. I've been in office since 2013, and I have personally told other people that Worcester is my project. I've been there the past few days, and I'm coming back again. So I put my email in here. If you can connect with me, I definitely will need your help. I know that we have between 5,500 to 6,000 Ghanaians. And I was joking to someone that in the next 2 years, we have to get them in on the school board and then on the city council. And I'm glad to hear that you have run before. And I would love to work with you. Worcester is only 2 hours drive from me. Let's see what we can do, not just for this election, but also, how do we call it, for moving forward to support our communities there. Here in Maine, we have a lot of immigrants in elected office, and not to take credit for everybody's effort, but it started with me when I ran and got elected in 2013. So whatever how the ingredients we use here, I would love to work with you to do it across other parts of New England. So my email address is in there. Let's connect and then go from there. And Delegate Boafu, good to see you. Fatima, thank you for putting this together.
Thank you. So Delegate Boafo, thank you for coming in. We don't, it's 9:43, so we have to be out of here. You can stick around, but you don't have to. We really, really appreciate you making the time and coming in. Where's my partner in crime? He disappeared on me. Fuad, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm here.
Okay. Do you have anything to say to Delegate Boafo?
I mean, obviously, I want to thank him. I think our community needs education because in Maryland and some of these states, the perception that the former governor is the best thing that ever happened to Maryland is a false promise. And the reason why most people perceive the former governor as one of the best governors is because the Maryland State House and Senate was Democratic state, and they overruled most of the bad laws he was trying to run. So most of the good things you saw in the state was because of the Democrats in the House and Senate. But no one gets that credit. Most immigrants don't know about it. Most of the Hispanics don't hear about it. Most of the Africans don't hear about it. They just think the governor did all that work. So as Africans in the diaspora, this is going to be the second phase. We have to really go out and educate our people within the DMV and within the U.S. as a whole.
Yep. Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me. And I know Pius and folks have their projects throughout the country, but I do think the DMV is a hotbed to ensure that we can actually get Africans elected to school boards, to city councils, to state legislatures, and hopefully one day to become county executive governors of our great respective states. So again, thank you guys so much. I want to make sure you guys have time to hear from Jovi because the state is coordinated campaign needs everything you guys have. So again, God bless you and thank you for all the work you guys are doing.
Thank you very much. All right, Jovi. Jovi got the floor. This is my guy. I won't go too much into it. Let's keep him with his current position. So Jovi is community director for the coordinated campaign here and for the Maryland Democratic Party. He's going to give us a little bit of tidbit about what's going on and some information of how we can help to get this election in the right way. Jovi, take it up.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Fatmata. And I really want to thank everybody who's on this call today and those of you watching this recording after the fact for being informed, being engaged, being part of this movement to defend democracy across America. My name's Jovi Lopez. I have the honor of being the statewide community organizing director for the Maryland Coordinated Campaign. And folks, we have less than 6 weeks to go, 41 days to the date. Marylanders have already started to receive their mail-in ballots. And so essentially the first vote for Kamala Harris and Angela Alsobrooks has already been cast. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Senate race, although we have been talking about it throughout the night, we're currently working to elect Angela Alsobrooks, who's a former prosecutor and marvelous county executive for Prince George's County. Once elected, Senator Alsobrooks is going to be the first Black woman ever elected for Maryland, and she would have defeated a Trump-endorsed former governor who was campaigning as a moderate Republican. Former governor, by the way, who vetoed additional funding for schools, vetoed universal background checks for long guns, vetoed an expansive family and medical leave act, and vetoed a $15 minimum wage. But on November 5th, all of us, all Marylanders, with your help, we're going to tell the GOP and Larry Hogan that we are not going back. So I'm sure that many of you have been asking yourselves throughout the day, and I appreciate a lot of the questions that were given to the delegate and not to me, but I'm happy to answer more of those when I'm finished. So what can you do to help? So for the first time ever, the Maryland Democratic Party has allocated resources and created an entire department focused on community and campus organizing. We've hired an organizer specifically to do the culturally competent outreach, not only for like Latino and AAPI communities, but also specifically for the African diaspora. I see Gway is somewhere in that participants list, and I will go ahead and put his email in the chat later on so you can communicate with him directly and communicate with myself. But we're reaching out to the community to get folks out to vote and improve our voter rolls with reliable demographic data, something that we have been lacking for a very, very long time. This is going to allow us to do better outreach into our communities who have traditionally not been engaged. So we're currently using a friend banking tool that is aptly named Empower. People like yourselves are going to be you're not just going to be calling strangers who haven't voted yet, you're also going to be calling the very people that you know. So we're relying on folks to be able to make calls to families, friends, neighbors, acquaintances, and getting those people to then contact their network and expand capacity to be able to crowdsource votes and data. So with this, and I know this isn't necessarily a new dynamic. There are many relational organizing tools out there. The main thing is that we need to do the outreach to our own communities to keep us engaged year round. This is my 15th cycle, y'all. I've been across America. I have been doing campaign management for a very long time. And one of the number one gripes that I get when I'm talking with the community is that people only talk to us during election time. And that needs to change. We need to rethink the way that we're engaging with our communities. And this is one of those ways to help it. We also have your traditional canvassing and multilingual shifts in certain communities, as well as phone banking across the state. We have multilingual literature in 8 different languages to make sure that when we're doing outreach to folks, it's not only in English, we also want to meet people where they're at. I'm also going to go ahead and link our Mobilize website so that if you are out of state, you can go ahead and look in and be like, hey, that's something that I can jump on right now. Or if you are local, you can always look up and any of our ongoing or whether it's phone banks or canvases or any other events, visibility events as well, to any of the offices that we have across the state. Currently, we have offices in Largo, New Carrollton, Silver Spring, Gaithersburg, Glen Burnie, Frederick, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Wacomico. Last thing, and I don't want to stay on too long because I know we have a hard cutoff at 10. But the last thing you can do to help is donating. The GOP have basically broken the super PAC Biggie Bank, and they've already started spending their $18 million haul on attack ads and negative outreach. So every single dollar counts. So be sure to send in your donation to the link in that chat. And bottom line, folks, is that we really need to call every household, knock on every door, and most importantly, do that outreach to our own communities and make sure that we're doing it in a culturally competent manner. Nobody else can do the outreach to our communities the way that we can do it in our own. So I appreciate any questions that you may have, any comments, and I will put in our email addresses in the chat so you can contact us after the fact. And then here's
Jovi, you told me something about friend banking. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, absolutely. So friend banking, so that is part of using the Empower tool. The Empower tool allows you to match up the voter database with contacts that you have in your phone. And it basically assigns you, so let's say, Famata, you have 10 friends that are currently in your phone, friends, family, people that you know that are in our voter database that we know we haven't done outreach to. It links it to you and it assigns you those people to you so that essentially you're in charge of getting those people out to vote and contacting those people so that they can also come out and do the outreach to their own networks.
Thank you. Jovi, thank you so much, obviously, for being here. I definitely want to congratulate you and your group, especially the CASA, that the work you guys have done in the state of Maryland. Africans in the diaspora, we need to learn from you guys. And I'm sure you will work with Fatmata to kind of get us to speed what we could do. The stuff at work you guys have done in the state of Maryland and probably in the country as well, it's really something that the Africans in the diaspora needs to copy. Education is important. Community organization is important. And I know you guys have led this in the state of Maryland for the Latino community, and much power to you and continue the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that, sir.
Richard Asondo, I'm sorry, you've had your hand up for a while. Hopefully the question is something we can help answer.
So,
yeah, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. My name is Richard Sando. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and originally from Cameroon. So I want to say I am extremely happy to be part of this wonderful evening. It's my first time, and I am starting in my own little way because one of the biggest concerns or one of the biggest worries I've had all this while is the fact that the African community is not organized. Or even if we are organized, we are still in little pockets in the sense that very few Africans are aware of the African Diaspora organization. And in my own little way, I actually started Africa USA Voters Foundation, which is ongoing. And we have a WhatsApp group of close to 600 members already, spread all over the US. And one of the biggest goals is, to build an alliance with other African organizations. And as soon as I heard about this, I didn't hesitate to jump on board because this is the way we're going to get together and make things happen. So I want to say I'm extremely pleased. We have our website, which is www.africausavoterfoundation.org. africausavoterfoundation.org. And I will actually want to, I've heard so many wonderful things here this evening, starting with the congressman from Maryland. And when it comes to actually trying to run for office or participate as a voting bloc here in the West Coast, especially Los Angeles, where I am, it's like something that nobody's even thinking about. Oh gosh. Yeah, sorry about that. It's like something that nobody's thinking about. And we want to start building that dream. And I think with the support of Africa Diaspora Group, I think we are going to together we can make things happen and try to bring awareness, which is what is very lacking, awareness to our people, to make sure we get together. And one thing that's very troubling is the fact that Africans in the US are very, very educated. We know that. We are very hardworking. But again, there's one thing that is missing. I don't know if it is because of our background, in the sense that we left our own nations because of unstable political situations, and we just came here and we thought we just have to work. We don't have to do any other thing. So I believe with little milestones like this, we are going to make things happen in a big way in the nearest future. And I was actually motivated by an organization called Vota Latino, which is big, very, very big. And I thought one day we'll get to that same level. So I want to thank you all very much for giving to me this opportunity to say a word. And I believe with the contacts I've gotten from the chat group, we are going to make things happen in a big way in the nearest future. Thank you all very much.
Last question will be from Cordelia, or last statement will be from Cordelia.
Hello, thank you, everyone. A quick question for Jovi. You mentioned crowdsource votes. Can you clarify that, please?
It's mostly to improve our voter database. A lot of the information that we have about the African diaspora in the voter database is mostly algorithmic. It's more like it's computer generated. It's not hard data that we've received. So when we're doing outreach using our program, like we're able to collect that hard data, making sure that, like, if, let's say, for example, I wanted to go tomorrow and do specifically a Nigerian phone bank, having Nigerian volunteers talking to Nigerian voters. This program will allow us to do that because the breakdown of ethnicity data and sub-ethnic groups doesn't exist. So we're trying to build this and improve our data by talking with folks, and that's essentially what I mean by crowdsourcing.
I see. And the friend banking, is there an app?
Yes, it's called Empower. It's called Empower, and we do have Empower parties that we're able to do. Gwei would be the best person to contact for those. We are able to do them virtually as well, and anybody from anywhere can essentially jump on, get trained, and start making their calls within 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you. That's all I have. I don't know is this an opportunity to say something else? Matter?
You don't have that much time?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm Cordelia Kweme. I joined you probably about 3 weeks ago, and we from Wisconsin. We're one of the pathways to Kamala Harris's becoming the next president. So we are quite excited to be a part of this, and I like the fact that we're coming together, because I believe we've always worked in silos rather than, so we don't have the strength. Here we have created a group, and part of it is to give us a community voice, because I think as Africans, we've kind of been on the sidelines with, and not been participated in most of the political affairs that affect us. So here we have created a group like Richard, that we have about 450 plus members that we created about 10 days ago, and it's on the climb. So we're, our next drive is to fundraise, and and also mobilize our people to get out to vote. We find there's a bit of complacency, and like someone said, I think it's Dr. Ford, our people are not educated. We're not educated about the ideas. We're not educated about the ideology. We do not understand the issues, or we mix them up because we've been disinterested. So I think education is one of the things that I think hopefully that even after this, that we take time to educate our people so they understand what the issues are and face them squarely. So I believe we are doing our best, but I'll be talking to probably Fatmata later too on other issues that we would like clarification on, how we can, particularly with Wisconsin being one of the battleground states, how we can be more proactive in ensuring that we get our people out to vote. And we find that there are a lot of young people, particularly of African, whose parents are first-generation immigrants, who are not registered because their parents are very complacent. So we have work to do.
Thank you. Before
Thank
we
you.
get...
Thank you, Famata. Sorry to interrupt. We haven't done this reminder, and I was supposed to do this earlier. We know we had like over 60-something people here initially. Just a reminder for those who have not donated to the Africans in the Diaspora link. So we have a link that's connected to the DNC and to the campaign, which is Africans in the Diaspora. When you vote, when you donate through there, if you donate $5, $10, or $20, the reason why this is important, collectively, we'll get that credit. I know individually, Africans in the Diaspora, Africans are donating to the campaign, but it'd be nice for you to donate through that link that associates Africans in the Diaspora with the campaign to make sure that we are, our goal is to get over 100,000 Africans in the Diaspora to donate to the campaign. So whatever you can afford, $5, $10. If you haven't donated yet, there's a link on the chat box. Please go ahead and donate as much as you can. Sorry again, Famata, go ahead.
No, it's okay. If we don't have any questions for Jovi, you can stay, but you don't have to. Do we have any more questions for Jovi? Just want to give it to our representative to give us a few words. Anybody? No? Okay. All right, Jovi, we really, really appreciate you taking the time to join us and give us some information. So we will be reaching out about these phone banking. Those are all part of what we're doing. And people can register or sign up for phone banking and canvassing at here in Maryland and, of course, in the battleground states. Thanks, Jovi. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it.
And give Big Man a hug. Give him a hug for me. Bye.
Fatmata, please send me the link for the donation, please, so I can share.
Okay. Yeah, we'll send it to you. We're gonna put it in the chat.
Chris, can you? The link is there. It's if you see it, it's on the chat box there. It's there. It's secure Kamala Harris, and that's the donation link right there. Can you see it?
Yeah, who asked for the link? Was that Richard?
No, it's for Wisconsin, but I equally needed it too.
Okay. All right. Let's have our representative Nikita Ricks give us a few words. I know we're running a little behind, but this has been such a great conversation, and we really need to hear from this amazing woman. Representative.
Well, thank you so much, Fatmata, and thank you to the Africans in the diaspora for Harris for inviting me. I was invited, I think, about a month ago, but things got really busy around the time of the convention, and so this is like the best opportune time. But I really enjoyed hearing from Delegate Buafra, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And it's so great to hear his story about, that there's 3 Africans now serving in the Maryland General Assembly. That is amazing. 4 years ago, I ran for office here in Colorado, and I got elected by 400 votes. I ran against another Democrat who had declared the year before me. And so he had all the endorsements sewed up. He basically declared in January 2019, December 2019, I declared. And at that point, it was like, wow, here she is running for office again. Now, my story is that I am a Liberian American immigrant. My family moved here in 1980, so I grew up here in Colorado, and I've been here for 40 plus years. But, running for office was not something that I planned to do. And coming out of a military coup where my mom was held at gunpoint, I certainly didn't choose that as a career. But I went through some political training through a group called Emerge, and then also did some training through New American Leaders. And I knew I would participate in, policy and serving on boards, but never really saw myself as the politician. So in 2013, when I graduated from Emerge, I ran for the Board of Regents in Colorado, and it was a very, very big race for a first time person coming out. It was equal to like a congressional district. I got over 100,000 votes, but did not win. I ran again for city council in 2017 and came in third. So at that point, people were like, wow, Laquita, you're really smart and you're a very nice lady. However, maybe you should just think about maybe supporting from the back. But because of the negative narratives that were going on around 2019, when we, and looking at the Colorado State House and not seeing anyone that carried my lived experience as an immigrant, I thought, and when we started hearing about how immigrants were from S-hole countries at the time, and Latinos were all, criminals and gang members, sounds kind of familiar. I knew that those were like false narratives, and those myths about immigrants needed to be dispelled. We bring so much to this country, and it was important to get our voices out and to talk about the great contributions that immigrants give to this country. And so I set out again in December 2019, and in March of 2020, we had COVID. So that kind of changed the whole game as far as politicking and knocking on doors. We couldn't knock on doors. I was able to raise about $13,000 roughly. My opponent, who, like I said, was a fellow Democrat, had all the endorsements, and there were 8 races that people did a bunch of independent expenditures, and they spent over $160,000 for him in the race. And ultimately, like, the previous delegate said, it was the last minute votes of the last weekend before the ballots were called in. I won by 404 votes, but it was immigrant votes that came in that got me over the finish line. And it was because these same, voters had seen me come time and time again, whether or not I was running for office or not, asking them about voting. You see, immigrants get excited about presidential races, but when it comes to the city council and the state races, some of us don't even know who our state representative is. But it's important that as our populations are growing, that we see us hearing the messages, supporting our communities in, the places of power, because everything, as you know, is controlled by politics here in a country. We have before us, Donald Trump, and Vice President Kamala Harris. The choice is clear in my opinion, but there might still be some people who don't know. And obviously, they're talking about Prince George's County in Maryland, and some people are kind of beholding to previous administrations. But we really need to get the message out, because everything is on the line. As immigrants, we're hearing about the hate that's going on, talking about people eating cats and dogs and people's lives being threatened. You guys have heard a lot about Aurora. Aurora, Colorado is where I represent. We are one of the 4th most diverse city in the country, and we speak over 160 different languages here in in Aurora. And so Aurora is a place where we had an influx of immigrants come in January. The Venezuelans came, and also a lot of Mauritanians. And so a lot of those people live here. But the false narrative has been that there are these Venezuelan gangs that are just running, all over the city. They're holding people at gunpoint. They're making the tenants in these apartment buildings pay them rent. And all of those are false narratives. Police from the Aurora Police Department have come out. They've talked about these being false narratives, but yet and still the GOP is still running with this because it's hype. And, Trump is talking about coming here to Aurora. But the whole point is that, these things will continue to happen, and we need voices at the table to help us. I loved hearing about the young lady from Worcester. Please contact me. I would love to help you with your movement. We really need to see more of us running, carrying our own stories and our agenda. So thank you for groups like the Africans in the Diaspora for Harris. We need to continue all of this. I've talked to Councilman Pius Ali, who's here, about doing political training for people who want to run for office, whether it's a school board seat, city council, state representative, whatever that is that you have, you can step out there. Once you are trained, you can be confident to present your story and tell your, new American story and be a part of this. Again, it's important that we get organized and make sure that our family members get to the polls to vote this November, voting down the ballot, voting for important ballot measures. Like in Colorado, we have a huge ballot initiative. We have about 42 items that are going to be on the total ballot statewide. So it's a lot. And most people won't probably take the time to go through each one. So we're asking people to really vote down the ballot and try to get those important ballot issues up in front of people and help them vote at the churches, at the mosque, making sure that you have a plan to vote, helping people get their ballots. If you have mail-in ballots, back to the mailbox, getting people to the polls, if that's how you guys vote in your state. But we cannot understate how important it is that we participate in this democracy and get involved. And so again, thank you for having me. We have a huge fight on our hands, but when we fight, we win. And we have this if we really just stay diligent and focus and get our voters to the polls. So I'm going to end there.
Thank you so much, Representative Riggs. Amazing story. We are way over time, and I appreciate everybody being here. And, I don't want to say, let's go home, because I really think that we have some information from our news team that I think is really that we really need to hear. Like the last two meetings, they've not been able to provide us with information. So I'm going to ask our news folks in the news, please give us a roundup of what's happening. What's happening? Give us the gist.
The gist. I had two other news reports to give, but I was instructed on something that just happened. So
No, we want all the news. We don't just want one.
No, you're gonna get two. I won't, because Chris will probably have some too. I'm gonna talk about this. So this week, Special Counsel Jack Smith has been granted permission to file hundreds of pages of legal arguments and evidence in the criminal case against former President Donald Trump related to the 2020 election subversion and the January 6th U.S. Capitol attack. A federal judge, Tanya Chutkan, made the ruling on Tuesday, allowing the Justice Department to add portions of its investigation into the court record that are not yet public. The filing, expected to exceed 200 pages and includes exhibits, could reveal significant details, including Trump's interactions with former Vice President Mike Pence during the critical period of late 2020 and early 2021. This is one of the largest publicly available portions of the case before the 2024 presidential election. So yeah, he's back in court, and he tried to get it suppressed so he wouldn't have to do it before the elections. But guess what? No. Chutkan said, we're going to court. The other thing is, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is expected to face federal charges from prosecutors in the Southern District of New York as early as tomorrow. According to sources familiar with the case, this comes amid a series of high-level resignations within his administration and at least 4 federal investigations. One of the main probes focuses on whether Adams' 2021 mayoral campaign conspired with the Turkish government to receive illegal foreign contributions. Yes, yeah, he's in there. As part of this investigation, the FBI previously searched the Brooklyn home of Adams' chief fundraiser. In another inquiry, federal investigators are looking into whether Adams, while serving as Brooklyn's borough president, pressured then Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro to approve a building housing the Turkish consulate despite safety concerns. Adam has denied any wrongdoing, but his administration is reeling from the fallout. So, yeah, these people are coming out. 2024 is going to be the year when everybody gets it. The only other thing that I wanted to quickly mention is that our Haitian community, they've had many, many rallies, marches going on in Ohio, South Florida, Long Island, New York, and Boston. They've protested a lot of former President Donald Trump's and his running mate, J.D. Vance, but now they have filed protests. So the Haitian Bridge Alliance, a nonprofit advocating for Haitian immigrants, took action after local prosecutors failed to act. On Tuesday, the organization's leader invoked a private citizen's right to file charges against Trump and Vance. So they're going to court on that too. So we shall see. Nothing might come of it, but hopefully this will put a little sting in their butts and let them know that the Haitian community is not playing. Wow. And that's my part of the news.
Chris, I don't know if you're going to top this, man. Stephanie really opened that bar. I don't know.
Oh, Chris,
if I were you, I just wait for next week. Don't talk.
I got some juicy stuff for you guys also.
Go on, Chris. Let them know we're a team, Chris. I got you.
We got to stay woke. So quick updates. We all got to pay attention to the local election laws in our states. In Arizona, the Ninth Court of Appeals just said that all voters must provide proof of citizenship in order to vote. That just happened this week. In New Hampshire, the Republicans just passed a law that said all students must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. So you got to keep checking what your state laws are. In a win in Pennsylvania, the courts uphold a ruling that says that the counties must provide notice to voters whose ballots have defects and allow them to vote provisionally. So Republicans were trying to get those ballots thrown out, but the Democrats won that. I'm not sure if you guys know who Mark Elias is. He's a top election lawyer in the country. Currently, right now, he's litigating 60 election cases in the country in 23 states.
Wow.
So we just got to be on top of those type news like that and just make sure nothing is changing in your respective states. That's all I have. I will post he sends out free newsletters on a weekly basis. I'll put the link in there if you want to sign up for it so you can stay informed. Knowledge is power. That's all I got.
So just so people understand, if you're not a born citizen and you're naturalized and they require you to show proof of citizenship, I don't know what they're looking for, but if like your driver's license and whatnot are not enough and you don't have a passport, because not every citizen has a US passport. Yep. To get a copy of your citizenship certificate is expensive and it takes time. If you're not a natural born US citizen. So these people are not playing. They're trying to disenfranchise all of us because they cannot win any other way. So if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't go to all these troubles. Your vote is extremely important. And what Representative Rick said, on point. We have to be the ones to do this. Both her and Boafo have told us how they won. It was us. So on that note, it's late. And we are so, yes, voter suppression. Exactly, Representative Riggs. It's all about voter suppression, and they're not going to stop. they're not going to stop because the demographics of this country is changing. Mahini?
Yeah, sorry, I have a quick question before we depart. So I know that that's October 5th. Is it October 5th that we are in North Carolina? I'm sorry, Pennsylvania?
That's our target, but it depends if we have enough people. So right now we don't have enough people for Pennsylvania for October 5th. So we need people to fill it out. Like,
how many more people do we need?
We need another 15 people. So we need to get it out to people. You know, get it out. People need to register, sign up. If you have to call friends, get them to sign up or something.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends that will call they live in Pittsburgh, so I will get that information to you guys.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much. You have our email. I'll
have
put
that, yes.
The link also in the chat where people can actually sign up to Canvas in PA, and we'll go from there. Because what happens is we get the names, we let the campaign and or the party know on the ground, and we say we have at least 20 people, and we are ready to come and do the thing or the work, whatever it is they need over there. Ideally, it will be to target, of course, the continental African community in PA to get them out to vote. But they may already have a system in place to do that, and they may need us to do something else. So it'll be Saturday or Sunday. It's going to be on a weekend. So any one of those days will be the date that we do this. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if I can get some more numbers for us.
We know you could do it, Miami. We know you could do it.
I know, right? So we'll leave early in the morning. That's what everybody has been doing, and come back in the afternoon because nobody really canvasses all day long, especially if we have to come back. So, yeah, and we're looking at partnering with other groups and organizations. I'm in talks with CASA about joining them also in November. They're going out November 2nd, which is, many times you do that last minute door knocking and you'd be surprised what you get out of it, which is to get the people out who are already sort of on board, but they're not coming out to vote. So you go to them. And we've, historically, we've even done same day, like election is going on today. And we go knock on doors and say, hey, do you know today's the last day to go and vote? And people have gone out to vote. Yeah. Or they have their mail-in ballot and they just didn't turn it in. And here you are knocking and they do it and they turn it in. And so every day counts. And we're also going to be doing phone banking, right? Parties. So get ready for that. We're going to get the people like Jovi and them to help us have the phone banking parties where you join via Zoom or whatever system they use, and you make phone calls based on the voter list that they have. And we just dial and we talk to our people, our neighbors. But we'll get with Jovi, especially for also Brooks. And then we'll get with the party and the campaign for the presidential race and any other. I didn't realize that what's her name was behind in Congress in a congressional seat here. So we may have to help Delaney out also, because if we lose that congressional seat, that dude is bad news, y'all. If y'all have ever heard him speak here in Maryland, you'd be like, what? He's bad news. He cannot. Yeah, we don't need to lose another seat in Congress. So Delaney is going to need help. So anyone who can do some of the stuff, we're gonna send out the link to register and sign up.
So Famata and everyone, obviously, again, thank you all to all the committees, the panelists. I mean, this election is going to be a close one. It's getting out the vote, and we're really trying to get all Africans of the diaspora, probably in the DMV, to go to Pennsylvania, like Famata said, to kind of amplify the vote out there. And lastly, we'll probably obviously need to plan ahead. I don't know who's going to host us on the night of the debate. Chris, are you going to host us? Maini, are you going to host us? We got to start planning. It'd be nice after all this work, we all get together. I don't know if on Zoom or in person to watch those results come in, to make sure Harris wins, to make sure Democrats win the Senate and the House. So let's start planning ahead as well.
Election night? You talking election night or debate?
Yes,
Election
sir.
night, right?
Election night.
Okay.
We got a
Going to
party.
your penthouse, bro.
Work. We got a party.
We going to your other penthouse.
I'll get back to you on that one.
Oh, who might go to Ike? Who might go to Ike?
Yeah, I nominate Ike. I nominate Ike.
I'll get back to you on that one.
I will host you guys. Come to Carolina.
I know, right?
We might have to go to Carolina. So
okay.
Yeah, Dr. Bo, we missed you in Carolina. We're in and out.
Yeah, by the time I got the message, I knew you guys were out, and then I contacted somebody and they said I'm in Salisbury.
I was all over the place. We were all over.
Yeah,
we have to talk to our people.
You guys are moving too fast. Yeah, we're doing it too. We're doing it too.
Okay. All right. It's 10:30. I think it's time to let people go.
One more thing. In Georgia here. So Katie Stamper, please. I know, Udi, we have District 11. There's a fake Democrat running. She's really a Republican, Katie Stamper. So we're working hard to make sure that everyone knows, do not vote for her in District 11 in Georgia.
What's her name?
Katie Stamper.
Katie Stamper. Yeah, we have a lot of fake Democrats in Georgia.
You know, it's interesting. When I lived in Virginia,
some of them.
Yeah, they would be running. There's no party affiliation. Like, are they a Democrat or Republican? I mean, like, nothing's written on their signs.
Yeah, they think they're slick.
Like you sit down in Virginia, you see that in Virginia.
If you have access to Vote Builder, you can actually see what ballot they've pulled in prior years. And so we have one that infiltrated our school board recently. She was a Republican for years, and now she pulled a Democrat ballot to vote for herself. And guess what? The Young Democrats Party went ahead and gave her the platform to speak, and now she's our elected school board person. So
wow,
that's how they do politics here in Georgia.
Wow.
Very undemure, very just stab you in the back.
Unpretty.
Wow.
I guess people don't run away from their DNA too much.
All righty. Okay, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
We had some great speakers.
Yeah, another successful night.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to thank everyone.
We're having a party at Chris or Ike or Miami. Which one?
All of the above.
Election night is what, 40 days.
Rotate.
All of the above.
Okay, everyone, do not forget to register to vote. Take 10 people with you to register to vote, and take 10 people with you to go vote. If you have mail-in ballots, help someone do their ballots or remind them to do their ballots and turn it in. And don't forget to donate. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Please
feel better, Maureen. Maureen, feel better.
Yeah, please do. And as
ginger tea and cognac works always.
As Dr. Bo says, if you want, you can put in your country, and he disappeared. Your country and where you live, where you're coming from.
Yeah, and let's start working on how we can get this all these organizations in place somewhere someday.
All right. In the chat, just put your name. Just put your country of origin and what state you're calling from. In the chat.
This is good news. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody. Appreciate everybody. Ginger tea and cognac. Okay.
That's a Chris special. Ginger tea and cognac.
What if you don't drink?
Hey, non-alcoholic cognac. I'm sure they got something like that.
All right, everybody. I appreciate
Where's
y'all.
Chris? That's an answer question for Chris. Where is he?
He's gone, and so are we. I'm gonna log off.